What's up, fellow travelers? Welcome to Traversing the Stars. I am JD. Please welcome my special guest today, Karen Allen. Karen, welcome to the show.
Thanks. I have to, there. I had to get out of the window covering your face there. Hi, I'm great. I'm great.
Awesome. I know you're busy. We were talking a little off mic about that. So really appreciate you being here. It's really great to have you on the show.
Thanks.
Absolutely. So one of your first roles that you when you first got into acting was in Animal House, which is definitely classic comedy, kind of defined the college shenanigans model movie. So what was it like having your first foray into movie making, involving such iconic talent, like John Belushi, Harold Ramis, among others? What was that like?
Well, it was quite a wonderful way to enter the film business. I'd worked in the theater for about 5 years before that. And this was really my first film. I'd done one little indie film before that was in Washington, D.C., where I had worked in the theater. But no, it was great. I mean, it was a pleasure. I mean, I loved all those actors I worked with, and I'm still great friends with many of them and still see them quite often. And for a lot of us, it was our first film. I mean, Tim Matheson maybe being an exception. Certainly Donald Sutherland was a major exception.
Yeah, absolutely.
Belushi, it was he'd done a little tiny part in one film previous to that.
Yeah.
But, so we were all kind of in the same boat. We all were sort of newbies, and we didn't really quite know what we were doing. But John Landis was certainly a fun person to work with for actors. I mean, it was only his second film or third film or something. So, it was his first studio film. I think he'd done a couple of indie films. So, it was great fun.
Oh, I bet. I got to imagine it was just nonstop laughs on set.
Yeah, it was, everybody was in a good frame of mind, and we were out in Eugene, Oregon, and we were all happy to be working on a film. I don't think any of us had a clue that it would end up as well as it did, that it would be as successful as it was, and kind of really capture the imagination of such a large audience. But
yeah. Awesome. Okay. So the movie you're probably most well known for, or the role you're most well known for, I would say, is probably Marion Ravenwood from the Indiana Jones series. So, that's another one that's, I would say stood the test of time, absolutely. So, what's it like being a part of that legacy? You came back for Crystal Skull and
Fantastic. I mean, it was there again. It was, I mean, that film, because it was George Lucas and Steven Spielberg working together for the first time. And both of them were coming off very successful films.
Right.
So, there was a lot more, I think with John Landis and with Animal House, there was very little expectation. In fact, the studio didn't really want to make the film. But with this film, there was a lot of expectation. And I don't know that I experienced that as an actor, because I was a young actor. I'd done maybe 3 or 4 films at that point. So, I just wanted to do a good job. Whether it was going to be successful or not, I mean, first of all, no one has a clue whether a film is going to be successful or not.
Right.
And it really, from the acting point of view, you do the same work regardless of, whether you think a film is going to succeed or not. But no, it was a real privilege and pleasure to get to be asked to do that role. And, I had a great time. She's a wonderful character to play. She's, full of life and strong and tough-minded, and has a good, strong spirit. And, is probably one of the best introductions to a female character ever in a film that I can think of.
Oh, her drinking scene is amazing when she's drinking the other lady under the table.
That was a man. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. It was. Yeah. Sorry.
They're all men. I'm the only woman in that scene. They're all Nepalese men who are all there. And but now. It's great. It's been a great adventure in my life. to be.
Absolutely. Now you mentioned about how talking about it was Spielberg and Lucas's first time working, first collab, like big collaboration together. So like
Right.
was that tension on set more tangible, I guess, or
Tension? No, there wasn't a lot of tension. No, I mean, they were old friends,
yeah.
and they had written the script really together.
Hmm.
So it was based on a story that Stephen had worked on with George and Larry Kasdan and the wonderful Phil Kaufman.
Hmm.
So no, I think Raiders of the Lost Ark was a sort of an homage to their
Yeah.
boyhood. Those were the kind of those films. They're all a little older than I am, so
Yeah.
I didn't really grow up with those films. I mean, the kind of films that I went to as Saturday matinees, they were a little different than that. They were
Right.
a little more 60s and less maybe 50s. But this was their childhood introduction to films.
Yeah.
So I think they love the idea of sort of taking everything from that world that so enchanted them
Yeah.
as men, as young boys, and creating their own version of that. So no, I mean, there was not a lot of tension on Raiders of the Lost Ark. I
That's
mean, I
good.
think it was a long shoot. I think we shot
Hmm.
for between 4 or 5 months, and we
Yeah.
were traveling a lot. We were in a lot of different locations. There were difficulties because in
Sure.
Tunisia we all got very, very ill
Hmm.
um, from the water and such.
Ooh.
But it was also a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think you definitely, the vibe that you talk about, their boyhood, kind of vibe that really does come through. Because I mean, that's like, again, Indiana Jones is a series that's defined adventure for so many people. Like, I love that.
Yeah, yeah. And there's a very boyish spirit in it. I mean, it's that kind of film, that I think kids discover when they're 8 or 10 or
Hmm.
12 or whatever. And then, people, what's great about Raiders of the Lost Ark is it gets passed from generation to generation. So
Yes.
somebody who saw it when they were 10 or 12, they can't wait to show it to their son or daughter.
Yeah.
And it has that. And, I'm now starting to meet people who, they're showing it to their grandkids.
Right.
And so that's special. It doesn't happen very often in an actor's career that
Right.
in a film that has that kind of staying power.
Yeah. Well, that's got to feel really good. I mean, especially when you get younger fans like that.
Oh yeah, it's fantastic.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
lovely.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. I love it. Now I gotta ask you about this one because I love horror. I've always loved horror. There's one that I watched as a kid that I feel like every time I bring up, people don't seem to remember it. But I thought
Interesting.
the
Am I
concept was
in
the
it?
you are
Oh.
the it's got the cool one of the coolest concepts that I've remember as a kid. Ghost in the Machine.
Oh, Ghost in the Machine. I think
I
that's the only sort
loved
of horror
Ghost in
film
the
I ever
Machine.
made.
Yeah.
You do?
Oh, I loved
I
it. I
haven't seen
absolutely
it.
loved it.
I maybe only have seen it once, and it was a
Really?
really long time ago, and I haven't seen it since. And I think I remember thinking it was a really good script and a
Yeah.
really good story. And I loved, yes, it's a wonderful idea, a
Yeah.
scary idea that some malevolent being could get into
Yeah.
our technology and could, kill people kind of
Yeah.
through something like a microwave or through something
Right.
like, you know, no, it's a fascinating idea. I don't, it's oddly enough, I think I was somewhat disappointed when I saw it.
Really?
I think so. I should watch it again because
Yeah.
you know often when actors first watch a film, you can be quite disappointed. You have the film in your own mind. You've read the
Right.
script, and then you're acting it, and you have a sense of what a film is going to be,
Right.
and it really is directly connected to your own imagination and your
Yeah.
own sort of sense of the story that you see when you're reading it and
Yeah.
working on it. And then there's the film in front of you, and sometimes sometimes the disappointment comes from just how different it is. It's different than what you imagine. And I found that happens often. And then I'll see a film numerous times, and it takes me a while, but I'll sort of eventually come around to the film that was made as opposed to
Right.
the film I had in my head.
Right.
Um, and I never kind of caught up with Ghost in the Machine, but I should see it again just to see if if I grow fonder with time,
Well, I think like, like, because it kind of hit at this like really interesting time when I feel like in the, because that was like kind of early to mid 90s. And I feel like there was like a lot more like modernization happening. It's kind of like, like the best way I've described it to people is like if you combine Freddy Krueger and the movie Hackers, it's like combine those two and you've got Ghost in the Machine.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll have to see it again. I haven't seen it I don't know, it came out in the 90s, so I haven't seen it
Yeah,
since then.
I want to say 94. I think it was 90, maybe 93. It was
Probably
definitely
around
early to
that.
mid.
I think of everything in terms of my son's age, and I think he was about 2 or 3 when we shot it. So
Yeah.
that seems right. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was born in 90, so.
Yeah. I remember the one kill that happened in it specifically I thought was really cool was like it was like the babysitter was sitting in the kitchen and then like something about there was a loose wire or something and like the killer like let the water from the dishwasher out and just electrocuted her in the kitchen. I thought that was so cool.
Generally, I have to say, short of something like The Shining, I'm not a horror film fan.
Right.
They actually scare me too much.
Really?
So I remember when I was going to work with John Carpenter on Starman, I'd never seen any of his films. And so I thought, okay, I'm gonna rent some of his films and look at some of his films. So I got Halloween, I got The Thing, I got The Fog. I think I had those 3 at my apartment in New York, and I put on Halloween, and I made it maybe half an hour into it, and I was just so freaked out to turn it off. And then I put on The Fog, and something very similar happened, but horror is really not my genre because I really am I get too affected by it. I mean, it really
just really sensitive to it.
Me. Yeah. I mean, I'm just, and the images from it really stay in my head a lot.
Yeah.
So it's not, I have a hard time shaking violent images out of my head. So it's not so good for me.
Well, see, it's funny too, because I've had that, I've heard that a lot, from a lot of different people. And, I don't know what it was. Like, I've always been drawn to horror myself. Because, I mean, when I saw that movie, I mean, it was like, I don't even know if I was 10 yet. Because my friends down the street, their parents let us watch everything. My parents tried to stop that, but it just didn't work. But it's just so, I've always like kind of been drawn to that genre. And the macabre has always like kind of spoken to me.
Yeah. Well, when I was a kid, we used to watch like Chiller Theater and stuff.
Yeah.
But they were very tame
by comparison. Yeah.
They were scary. I like scary things. I just don't like violent things. I don't like to see somebody electrocuted or somebody get stabbed.
Yeah.
I like when the violence is, like in The Shining, the violence is really all kind of in your.
It's all psychological.
Your imagination. There's very little that happens that's it's scary, but it's not. Those are the kind of films that
I agree. I like those too. So we recently had your co-star and director from your newest movie on, William Sadler, huge fan of him. Sarah Schwab, love her. So tell us about A Stage of Twilight.
Well, A Stage of Twilight is based on a play that I got involved with could be 8 years ago, 9 years ago. I was working with a theater company in New York City doing a play. I was in one play and then I directed another play. And Sarah's partner was the producer and of both of the film I was in and the film. And I got to know Sarah during that period of time. And she and I were just talking one night, have it over dinner or something. And she said she was thinking about writing a play that had to do, she was interested in end of life issues, things that, we don't talk about very much. It wasn't feeling like they were talked about in the theater very often. and it wasn't feeling like, we do a lot of killing in movies, but we
Right.
do very little mourning or
Right.
very little dealing with the approach of death. And,
Right. And what it
so,
actually means and what it actually
yeah,
feels
how
like as
people
far as that
grieve
goes.
and
Yeah.
how people deal with, someone who they love becoming ill or even dying suddenly, and all
Right.
those different areas. There was a time in my life where, people were constantly sending me very, very violent films. And
Mm.
I basically ended up saying to my agent,
Mhm.
the only kind of films I want to be in, if they're about someone dying, only one person can die,
Mhm.
and people have to really care.
It
what
needs to
that
be meaningful.
It's like, I don't want to be in films that have random violence, or
Yeah.
where violence is being glorified, or where, you're just watching people murdered willy-nilly all around
Right.
you. I just don't feel like that's something I want to say out to the world. I mean, I feel like there's plenty of violence in the world. I don't know
Yeah.
if we need to bring it into like our work.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So anyway, she wanted to make a film, and she wanted to make a play. She wanted to write a
Mhm.
play about it, and she wrote a version of the play. It had a completely different title. It's called Until Death. It was called,
Ooh,
and
okay.
and Jeff DeMunn. Do you know the actor Jeff DeMunn?
I know the name. I don't know if I could place him anything directly at the moment.
Wonderful, wonderful actor. He's on the show Billions right now. He plays
Okay.
Marty's father in Billions, but he's done incredible work in film. Anyway, he and I, who we had worked together before,
Mhm.
we were cast together to play husband and wife in this play,
Mhm.
and we worked on many, many versions of the play. We kept doing readings and getting feedback, and then she'd go back to work on it.
Refine it a little
We
bit.
brought in a really, really good director who worked with us on several versions of it as well. And somewhere along the line, there was some frustration because,
Mhm.
it's hard to get a play on off Broadway or on Broadway, and particularly she found hard maybe to
Mhm.
get one that is about this issue, because
Right.
people come to the theater more kind of wanting something lighthearted, and then they
Right.
go out to dinner.
Yeah.
But not always. I mean, there's a lot of serious plays off Broadway, but during COVID, or
Mhm.
even pre-COVID, she wrote this into a screenplay, and
Mhm.
she had since made her first film, and it had uh, come out quite well, and she had
Mhm.
it at various film festivals and things, and it had been quite successfully received.
Mhm.
And so she was feeling the confidence that she could take this. She hadn't written her first one.
Right.
She felt the confidence she could take this play she had written and turn it into a screenplay. So she sent it to me, and it had changed quite significantly,
Right.
because the play only had 3 characters in it.
Right.
And it was very focused just on the husband and wife.
Right.
Um, and she opened it up quite significantly. You haven't seen it,
I
right?
haven't. No.
No. So she had opened it up quite significantly, and now there are really, 2 parallel stories that are quite different
Yeah.
stories, in the film itself. And and Jeff wasn't available to
Mhm.
do the role in the film because he's shooting Billions. And
Right.
so we started looking around for who might be an interesting choice. And Phil Sadler's name came up, and she had multiple conversations with him. And I knew him a little bit. I had met
Yeah.
him before and really had a nice connection with him. So I thought that was an interesting idea. And then then the 3 of us got together and read through it and started, doing a little bit more work on it and trying to get it into the kind of shape you want
Yeah.
a screenplay to be in when you start shooting. So
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to be honest. I'm actually a little nervous to watch it only because I think it's you said about society, like society, and I definitely have a tendency to do this myself. Like when the thought of like thinking about like death or the next step, whatever, I kind of tend to just push it away because it's just like, oh,
Mm.
don't want to think about it. Don't want to think about it. I feel like a lot of people do that. So like, I'm kind of nervous to watch, especially because I've been married for over 10 years. So I feel like it's going to very much speak to me.
It's interesting. It's interesting how people can watch people like murdered on screen
Yeah.
and not really
And
think
no
about
big
it
deal.
having to do with death. You know, multiple stabbings.
Yeah. I'll be
There's
cheering that on. But then when you actually have to think about it, it's
there's a
like,
period of time on television where I felt like every show you turned on
yep.
had to do with serial killers.
Yeah.
I live out in the country and I was like, I really can't, it's
Yeah.
like enough is enough. But yeah, no, it's interesting to explore these issues. And actually, I think more and more there have been a lot of explorations now, particularly in film, but I've also seen several in the theater, which are about these issues and
Mhm.
end of life issues, people, dealing with Alzheimer's, people
Right.
dealing with, spouses or fathers or who are, having to be in nursing homes or
Mhm.
it's I think a very integral part of all of our lives, and if
Yeah.
it's not now it will be at some point. So I think
100%.
it's a there's these are very relevant. I'm a baby boomer, and
Mhm.
we're a very large generation of people who
Mhm.
are all kind of moving into the era where most of us have lost our parents at this
Mhm.
point, gone through various processes with
Right.
some people their parents go very quickly, and other people they've had to really deal with things like
Mhm.
dementia and Alzheimer's or diseases, progressive diseases, and so I think that it's a real provocative and
Mhm.
meaningful subject matter. Particular,
Yeah.
I understand that most young people are not that eager to
Right.
dive dive into it yet.
Right.
But for my generation, I think, we've all people in their 60s and 70s, and
Right.
they're all dealing with it with their parents right
Yeah.
now. So,
So how was that stepping into that? I mean, into that role? I mean, like, because I have to imagine it was challenging to get like into the headspace of like, because I mean, like in the film, the husband is dying.
right.
So did that bring up any feelings for you, or I mean,
Oh, huge. I mean, this year I lost my mother and my sister.
oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
So my mom to a long dementia that
Mm.
lasted 5 years, my sister to COVID.
Oof.
Um,
Sorry to hear
and
that.
my dad a few years ago, he quite mercifully, died of a heart attack very quickly. He would have been
Yeah.
a terrible patient, when he had to go into assisted living, or, he was just such a kind of a proud
Yeah.
man. The idea of somebody taking care of him was abhorrent to
Just
him.
wasn't in his.
Oh, no, and my mom was much more graceful with allowing
Yeah.
people to look after her, but my dad, it would have been a really rough ride. Um, but so it feels like a subject matter very close to
Yeah.
my life. I had also had 8 years of working on the play before we got into
Right.
the film, so I had a real familiarity with it,
Yeah.
and also it helped Sarah shape the character and shape the story between the characters. So it was very familiar territory to me by the time we got to the place where we were going to shoot it.
Nice, nice. So now this was so Sarah was early with like as far as film directing. This is like one of her first ones, right?
It's her second
Second.
feature film. She
So
did a
how
short film, and then this was her second feature film.
okay, okay. So how was she as a director? How was it like? What was it like working with her?
I thought she did a very good job. She was very highly organized.
Mhm.
She brought in a cinematographer who I've known for years and years, who
Mhm.
I love working with. And I thought she had Brian Long, her
Mhm.
partner in life, who was a producer I had worked with a number
Mhm.
of times before. So he was there as one of our major support systems. And no, I thought she did very, very well. I thought, you know, it's hard. It's very hard to direct. I mean, I've worked with a lot of first-time directors,
Mhm.
and you know, I will never understand why anybody would choose to direct a feature film without having done at least several short films, you know, to have,
Yeah.
but I've worked with directors who didn't do that. You know,
Yeah.
they're doing their first film and it's a feature. And they have that deer in the headlights look like through most of the film, and things, you know, you know,
It's like you don't
films.
know what you don't know until you're doing it, or what it's like
No, no,
until you're in
I
the thick
wouldn't.
of
I
it.
mean, I directed a short film and had a really wonderful time doing it.
Yeah.
But I knew. I mean, having spent 40 years on film sets,
Sure.
I knew I couldn't fool myself for a moment that it
Right.
wasn't going to be extremely challenging, and that there would be all kinds of things that I would question. And you know, and I just gave myself a really great support system around me, and I worked with actors that I knew really well. And you know, and you can make your job certainly a lot more fun and a little
Yeah.
easier if you know, I don't know. I mean, I have not yet directed a feature, and I would be very, um, you know, eager to do it with the right piece of material for
Right.
myself, and with the right, you know, if I was in control of certain things like the casting and like certain
Yeah.
areas of things. But um, you know, I think she has a lot of potential as a director. I mean, I think she will move forward
Awesome.
and continue to do things. And uh, you know, indie filmmaking is very challenging. There's no
Yeah.
two ways about it. There's never enough money. There's never enough time. There's never enough of anything.
Right.
And you're kind of just trying to everybody's just trying to do the best they can.
Yeah. Love it. I love it.
You're always wanting more time, and you're
Yeah.
always wanting, you know, a longer schedule, and every day just seems to fly by.
Yeah.
And
I love it. I love it. So I've been a fan of William Sadler for years. Love the Bill and Ted series. That's like, you know, one of my favorites. So, which actually, I think I just realized it is kind of interesting that he played Death in that, and then he's like a character who's dying in this one. So that's pretty funny. But so what was it like getting into the husband wife role? Like, I mean, because I mean, at that point, you got to play. You're looking at playing characters that have been married for years. So, like, how was it like achieving that chemistry with Mr.
I think,
Sadler?
you know, it happened very naturally between he and I, and we met. I can't remember exactly where it was we met, but we met and ended up sitting and having lunch, whatever it might have been, at a Comic-Con kind of thing.
Cool.
We ended up sitting and having lunch, and we just like hit it off. You know, we spent maybe an hour chatting. So we had this sort of initial chemistry, and this was 10 years ago or something.
Yeah.
So you know, and then when I re-met him, when we did these readings and worked on the script a bit, he and I found that we had very similar, you know, there were things that we thought really needed to be worked on, that
Right.
needed to, you know, there's some scenes that weren't quite working yet. And we had both had ideas of how, you know, we could help Sarah kind of really, you know, start to fine tune some of the scenes. And we were very much on the same page with that. So I think by the time we got to the shooting, I already felt very comfortable with him. You know, it's, you know, how does one bring a sense of a marriage, a 40-year marriage, to the screen? I think that it, you know, there's just a sense of, you know, I guess you just bring all your own life experience there, in terms of your knowledge of being in a relationship of some, you know, weight and longevity. And then you know, you kind of try to find that with the other person, that sort of sense of, you know, of familiarity and of, of deep connection, you know. and this is Sarah's written a very healthy relationship. I mean, these are two people who really love each other. They've had some tragedies in their life. They
Sure.
lost a child. So there are kind of these deep things that they've
Yeah.
gone through. Yeah, so I think we did it quite easily. It wasn't like we didn't have to work at it.
Didn't have to force it or anything.
No, not at all.
That's awesome. I love to hear that. That's awesome.
Did Bill say something similar?
I actually didn't get a chance to do that interview. So my partner Jeff did that interview. And it was funny too, because I've been making fun of him ever since we did that, because it was just because I working a full-time job at the moment, while we do the podcast. And so it was like the schedule was like, it was like right as I was getting off, so I couldn't make it work. So Jeff got to do that one. So yeah, but no, I did get to watch that one, obviously, edited it and all that. But he had a very similar thought. That you guys,
I think we both felt very, very at ease with each other and happy to be doing this together.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So, having lived through this role, having lived through some, tragedy in your own life, real life experiences, is there any additional wisdom, that you've kind of gained from that you'd want to, kind of share with everybody?
Oh gosh, that's such a big question. I don't even know how to answer that question. I mean, losing a parent is tough. These are people you've known since the day you were born. No matter what kind of a relationship you have with them, how hard it's been or how great it's been, or the depth of love and the difficulties that you may or may not have been through with them at different times, they're still your parent, and you're never going to have another father, another mother, and it's a profound experience to lose a parent. And losing my sister was really profound. I mean, she was fairly way too young to die, and she passed just a month before the vaccine was available, and it felt very tragic to me and my. I have a younger sister. This is my older sister. I don't know that it hasn't even been a year, so I don't know that I have anything necessarily of a wise nature to say about anything to do with her death, except it was just, very hard to lose her.
Yeah. And I imagine you're still processing that, because
and she was at a very happy point in her life, and I just never imagined that I wouldn't have her for long. And I think to lose two people during COVID, the really tragic part is, nobody could be a part of their, we couldn't be with them because we couldn't travel to be with them. My mom was in a memory care unit of a small little facility, and they were on complete lockdown. So, I hadn't seen my mom for a year and a half, not because I didn't want to be with her, but because I couldn't be with her. So that was hard.
Made it that much harder. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah. Oof. Well, hey, I really appreciate you being here. So where can everybody, forgive my ignorance, is the movie out yet?
Which movie?
Your movie. Stage of Twilight.
Stage of Twilight?
Yeah.
Oh no, she hasn't even finished editing.
Okay. I was going to say, because I was like, when you asked if I'd seen it yet, I was like, that's not out yet.
I thought maybe she had sent you a screener or something.
No. Okay.
I mean, she does have a rough cut that I've seen, but it needs I didn't imagine that you probably had seen it, because the sound is very raw and not finished, and generally a director would not allow very many people to be on that stage.
Well, I had for a sec, I was like, wait a minute, where are we at time wise? Because like I feel like the year is just like flying by. Like I feel like
we shot it in June and July.
Yeah.
So now we're in December.
Yeah.
So I think she is struggling to get it into a finished enough state to submit it to Tribeca. That was her goal, and I think the Tribeca deadline is sometime in January. So
awesome. So we should be able to look forward to that sometime we're aiming for 2022.
Yes, and I don't, to get into to Tribeca is
Yeah.
you're on a wing and a prayer.
Right.
But yes, I think it will start showing up at film festivals sometime in
Perfect.
2022, provided Omicron or whatever that bloody variant is called.
Yeah.
Provided that doesn't shut down all the film festivals for yet again another year, but we'll
Yeah.
see how that goes.
Awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing it, even though it is like, like I said, the subject matter is a little bit like, oh, kind of scared to approach it, but you know what? I'm excited to see it. So
Did you see The Father last year? Oh, you didn't?
No.
One of the most brilliant films I've ever seen. It's
check
beautiful.
that out.
Oh my God. You know what I saw today is Dune. I just saw the new Dune.
I'm gonna see it at some point. I'm weird about remakes. Like but I also I feel like Dune is one of those ones where like I'm not as into Dune as like I love sci-fi, but like there are some sci-fi nerds that like go into Dune. I mean, there's so much to dissect with it, but between the movies and the books.
Good, I have to say.
Was it done well?
Well, it was done well, and the way that they're doing it, there's going to be many episodes. So
yeah,
I think the problem with the original ones, they tried to pack so much into it.
I know, what it was like 4 hours long, something like that.
I don't remember how long it was.
It was long.
It's only maybe 2 hours. I didn't really know that it was just the beginning of the book. So
yeah,
it's like they're setting you up to do. I don't know how many episodes they'll end up doing, but it's nice because they can be a little bit more leisurely in their storytelling. They're not trying to jam so much.
Well, I think that was an issue with the original movie is like, because like you can't just put Dune on in the background and know what's going on. Like you have to like really like, it's so intricate.
There's a lot there's a lot of content there, and yeah, to pull together all those pieces, and the performances are beautiful. I mean, it was wonderful.
All right, I'm gonna have to check it out. I'm gonna have to get on that.